Hi there, Michelle here. In today's video, I thought I would take a bit of a comprehensive look at something that bothers all of Hoya growers, and that is pests. Let's talk about Hoya pests. We have a list of 8 pests, and I'm going to go ahead and put them over here. And the list of the pests are mealy bugs, root mealies, spider mites, flat mites, thrips, aphids, scale, and fungus gnats. So those 8 in that order. We're going to talk about those 8 today. We're going to talk about how you recognize them, what they look like. We're going to talk about how you treat them. We're going to talk about what they do to plants. We're going to talk about how you recognize them and how you treat them. So if you encounter them, you'll know what to do. If you like today's video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content like this, especially more Hoya related content, please consider subscribing to my channel. That really helps me get the word out about my channel to the YouTube universe through the algorithm. And if you have any questions, please put it in the comment section below. I do interact with my comment section, so I will read it and I will get back to you. And so now on to the video. The first thing that we need to do for our plants is to learn how to find these Hoya pests and recognize them. And the first thing that we do is we need to look at the plant itself. We need to look at the stems and the leaves. And a lot of times that will give us a clue as to what's going on. If you see leaves that have yellow spots, leaves that have little lines through them, leaves that are yellowing, leaves that are dropping. Of course, there is the honeydew, which is a sticky little substance that creates a little shine on the Hoya leaf. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a Hoya that has it. I had one Hoya that had it, but unfortunately, I washed it off, and so no more honeydew. That's what it's called, honeydew. But that's a huge clue that there is some sort of pest, is the honeydew. How do you inspect? You have to inspect all parts of the plant, not just the tops of the leaves, because that really doesn't get you the whole way. You really need to inspect underneath the leaves. That's where most pests are going to be at, in my experience, is on the undersides of the leaves. We're going to go into the treatment options. What are treatment options for you? And we're going to go ahead and run through all the treatment options at first. You really don't need to divide them up into what option works best for what pest, because it's pretty much a catch-all for pests. You treat generally most pests with the same thing. There are natural remedies, there are chemical remedies, and then there are mechanical remedies. And I'll go through them with you. And the first natural remedy is insecticidal soap. And what that does is that is a soap that is sprayed onto the plant. Insecticidal soaps work by breaking down the protective outer barrier of soft-bodied insects, leading to dehydration and death. That's pretty much the standard for how all items such as insecticidal soaps work. How do you use them? Well, what you do is you have a bottle of insecticidal soap and you have to dilute it. So you have a little bottle and you pour a little bit into a big cup of water and you dilute it. And then you spray it on all parts of the plant, on top of the leaves, underneath the leaves, stems, everything. And then you retreat the plant every week for a few weeks. So that's how you use insecticidal soap. The next natural remedy you can use is neem oil. I personally don't use neem oil. I find it to be messy, to be ineffective, to stop me from using other types of uh, chemicals or pesticides. Um, it also can cause your leaves to burn if you put it in bright light after you use it. So I don't use it personally, but a lot of people do and have good success. It's also a leaf shine agent if you are needing that. Neem oil disrupts the life cycle of pests by interfering with its feeding, growth, and reproduction. I don't know how, but it does. So, how do you apply it? Again, you have a concentrate of neem oil. You put that into water along with a little bit of soap to kind of coat the leaf. You cover all parts of the leaves, stems, tops of leaves, bottoms of leaves, everything. The third natural pest remedies is horticultural oil. And horticultural oil works by suffocating pests and by coating their bodies and their spiracles. Those are their little breathing holes. What you do is you just dilute it in water, and that's pretty much it. And the important thing to remember with horticultural oil is you really, really, really dilute it and you apply it during a cold period of time or a cold period of the day, because you don't want this applied during a hot part of the day, and you never want to apply it in the sun because it will burn your leaves. So be careful with that. Let me mention the number one natural agent, and that is rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol works by stripping down that protective layer. Since it's destroyed the outer coating, the rubbing alcohol can instantly dehydrate and destroy the pest. So it's a desiccator, it's a dehydrator. So it works like that. It can also be very rough on your plant. It can kill leaves. So you have to be really careful with it. You can dilute it with a 1-to-1 ratio of water to rubbing alcohol. So half water, half rubbing alcohol. That's something that you can definitely do. Use 70% rubbing alcohol if you can get it. That's what I use. You can either spray it onto leaves or you can use a cotton swab and wipe it down. I personally spray down my plant. It covers the whole plant equally. I find it faster than using the Q-tip option. I just wham, 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 wham. The whole thing is destroyed. That's just me, though. Do what you may. We also have, finally, Pure Crop One. What is Pure Crop One? Pure Crop One is colloidal vegetable oils that have been processed in a way so that it disrupts the cell membranes of pests, causing dehydration and death. It also disrupts their biofilm, breaking down the protective layer of biofilm, making them more vulnerable. So it sounds kind of like rubbing alcohol to a point, only it's oil. I have Pure Crop One. I have used Pure Crop One on root mealy issues. I have found that it is effective at destroying root mealies. I will say, though, in my laziness of just adding it to the semi-hydro reservoir of plant oil, plant water, and not taking it out, not rinsing it out, I have destroyed some considerable roots. So please do not do like I do. And if you add it to your semi-hydro water solution, drain it out after an hour or so. Drain it, rinse it out of your semi-hydro solution and put clean water back in the pot. Don't leave it sit for more than an hour or two. And do that for the health of your plant, please. So with that, you spray it on all sides of the plant. You leave it for, you just leave it, and then you reapply it every 3 to 5 days. I will say you don't have to reapply it every 3 to 5 days. Every 1 week to 10 days is fine. That's my experience with root mealies. I only applied it twice in the whole entire time. That was sufficient for me. That's just what it is. There is beneficial insects, which means that there are predatory mites. And what are the other ones? There's ladybugs, there's lacewings, and there's one other one. Lacewings, and what was it? And of course, there are chemical treatments, and chemical treatments are pesticides, insecticides, miticides, the sides, I guess you could say. There are chemical ways to remove your pests, and those are for the plant to be sprayed and then it to be absorbed into the plant. And then when the pest eats it, it goes into their system, and then it eradicates the pest through that way. There are many, many, many different pesticides, insecticides like that. So I won't go over them with you. I will say that there are a whole bunch. There are many that are successful. To be careful and to go with experience telling you what works before you jump ahead and just grab one. There are non-chemical ways to eradicate pests. There are the manual way of removing pests, and that is just by Q-tip and rubbing alcohol. And then there are using yellow sticky traps to remove flying insects. You know, the yellow sticky tape on a stick. That is a manual pest removal way. How do you prevent pests from entering your collection? There are a few ways that you can keep on top of it. There's really no way to make sure that there are never any pests in your collection. That's not really the goal here, is to say you'll never have pests in your collection. The goal here is to say, how do I best manage my collection so that if and when there is an issue, how do I best treat it? And the first way you do this is by regular inspections. That is by regularly taking a look at your plants, the leaves, the undersides of leaves, taking a look at, are they growing new growth? Is the new growth adequate? What does the new growth look like? Does it? Okay, I had to turn off my mic because the battery went dead. So hopefully you can still hear me using this, the camera's microphone. But regular inspections are a good way to keep up your collection. Taking a notice if something got, brought in. If you move them inside and outside during the summer, definitely be checking for pests, because that's just kind of a given. You're going to get pests if you put your plants outside. That's just nature. By quarantining new plants, I talked about this on my last video. You need to have a bin to keep your new plants in for a period of about 3 to 6 weeks. That's probably 3 weeks is probably long enough to see a pest emerge. 6 weeks is long enough to see the pest emerge and to start treating it. I know it feels impossible to leave it out of your regular collection that long. And I know how hard that is, but you got to do it. It's better to treat a bin full of cuttings, like 10 cuttings, than it is to treat 150 plants to your collection. The other thing is maintaining proper care of your plants. And this is not a dig on anyone in any way. What I mean by this is doing things like keeping your plants too wet and attracting fungus gnats. When I was first collecting, I was a helicopter parent. I hovered over my plants, and every time they would get just the slightest dry, I would water them again. I was definitely an overwaterer. Now you can't get me to water to save my life. So it's kind of a thing. I think all houseplant enthusiasts go through a period where they don't water, or they water excessively, and then they get to a place where they don't want to water. If you want to avoid fungus gnats, let the top part of the soil dry. The other thing I was going to say is there is a new plug-in that you can get. It has a white plastic thing that you plug in, and then you plug in a white sticky card to the plug-in. And then it has a ultraviolet light that you can't see because it's got the white sticky paper in the way. And what it does is it attracts the insects, and they stick to the paper. And it doesn't require hardly any electricity, but that thing works so good. We have one of those because I have plants. And it attracts fungus gnats that I don't even know I have. I don't have a fungus gnat problem in my house, but I have one of those, and it attracts fungus gnats. So if I can urge you to do anything, it's get one of those ultraviolet light sticky paper traps I will put a picture of it on the screen, definitely. Try one of those if you have a fungus gnat issue. There are environmental issues to put into consideration, and that is one of them is optimal light conditions. You do not want to have your Hoyas in too dim of a situation. Light is not the most important part of pest treatment, but you do need to make sure that that plant is getting plenty of light. It needs it to photosynthesize and to grow and to recover from its pest care and its pest treatment. What do you do with a severe infestation? This is kind of your stopping point. I'm going to give you an example. What do you do when you have a Hoya that has a crap ton of Mealy Bugs or has Thrips really bad? And this is end game time. Do you treat that plant and continue to treat it, knowing you may have to continue to treat it for a very long time, and it needs to be isolated from your collection in a bin so it does not pass on its pests to the rest of your collection? Because it will. If you have a plant that has pests really bad, it's going to pass them on to the rest of the collection if you don't remove it. Your options are either treat, and maybe get the pests off of that plant, or do you have to think of the nuclear option, which is to get rid of the plant? Get rid of the plant for the sake of the collection, because you're not going to be able to fully treat this plant because you've gotten to the point of no return. I will give you a story. I had a philodendron, can't remember what philodendron it was. I brought it home and it had thrips, and it didn't just have one thrip or two thrip. It had hundreds of thrips. Why I didn't? Okay, I will tell you why I missed them. I missed them because I have bad eyesight. I didn't see them until it was too late, and it was too late. So I had to throw away that plant. That was one of, I've only thrown away like 4 plants in my whole planting career. And that was one of them. And boy, did I feel guilty for that. That was the first plant I ever threw away. So, boy, that was a, ugh. Now, there are environmental items that deter pests, and that is optimal light, because the more bright, the more light of the plant has to photosynthesize. Not too much light. You can't give the plant too much light. Like, you can't go like 3 grow lights on the plant and blind it. But like adequate light, and good air circulation and higher humidity. If you have these 3 things, it helps the plant recover better. Okay, what do these pests look like? What I'm going to do right now is, as I talk, I'm going to show you what the pests look like. If I give anyone the ick factor, I apologize, but I think it's important to see what these Hoyas look like. And the first one is Mealy Bugs. Mealy Bugs are probably pretty recognizable as to what they are. They are small sap-sucking insects covered with a white cotton-like wax. They tend to cluster on stems, leaf nodes, and the undersides of leaves. What are the signs of Mealy Bugs? Of course, you see white, fluffy, cotton-like patches on leaves or stems. You see a sticky residue on your leaves, a shiny residue. That's called honeydew. That is something that the plant produces when sap-sucking pests such as Mealy Bugs are present. You see it with some other pests too. On the plant itself, you'll see yellowing leaves and stunted growth due to the sap depletion. On the Hoyas, you'll also see sooty mold growth in the areas where there is honeydew. Because what happens is, if you have not good air circulation, you'll have mold grow on that sooty area because it's sticky and it's kind of sweet sticky. So mold will grow on that, black mold. And I've had this happen to me where I've been, actually it's with this tequila sunrise actually. I noticed I had sticky mold on the leaves and I was like, what is that? Well, it was pests. So I had to give the plant a good rinse, and then I applied a pesticide to the plant. Well, technically a miticide, but I applied chemical agent to the plant. Those are the signs of Mealy Bugs. Mealy Bugs are probably the most recognized bug out there. With all pests, I'm going to go without saying that one of the options is a chemical option. You can spray a chemical agent on your plant to remove the pest. I personally, because I live in the U.S., there's a product called Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. It is a wide range pesticide. It does kill spider mites, but it doesn't work with all mites. Without saying it for every pest, just note in your head that insecticide is an unspoken option. Hey guys, video editing Michelle here. I wanted to pop in real fast and just explain something. The reason why I said chemical agents such as insecticide is an unspoken option for this video, that is because not everyone can get insecticide. In countries outside the U.S., they're not always allowed. In certain states inside the U.S., they're not always allowed. So I didn't really feel right in including them in a video in which they weren't applicable to some of the people looking at the video. So they're not in the video. I'm going to talk about other options. Of course, they are options for you if you have access to them. They work great. They work really great. So if you want information on that, let me know in the comment section below. But otherwise, here we go on all the other options you can use for pest treatments. Thanks. As for the other options you may or may not know about, the first option is manual removal, Q-tip and rubbing alcohol. If you just have one or two little mealies on a plant, a Q-tip and rubbing alcohol can be the way to go. I personally spray down the entire plant with rubbing alcohol in a 1-to-1 mixture of rubbing alcohol to water. Why do I do this? Because if there's one, there's more than one. Mealy bugs do not reproduce just one baby. There is more than one. So I spray down the entire plant, undersides, top sides, stems, everything. So you spray it down and you hope for the best. So manual removal is definitely the number one way to go. And, like I said before, the rubbing alcohol removes the protective coating and the lipids from the surface of the exoskeleton, enabling the rubbing alcohol to dehydrate and destroy the pest. You can also use insecticidal soap with these. That does work. It suffocates the mealy bugs. And you can also try using neem oil. Neem oil disrupts the mealy bug's hormonal system, preventing reproduction. The next pest I'm going to talk about is root mealies. And why am I categorizing them as separate pests? From what I read, root mealies are a separate pest. In my experience, they can be the same pest. Root mealies are technically thought of as a subspecies of mealy bugs that go underneath the soil and attack the roots, sucking out the nutrients from the roots. The sign for root mealies is just general plant decline, including yellowing and wilty leaves despite all of your plant care. The number one way you have root mealy bugs is to see them in the pot, to see them in the soil, the substrate, the pond. Other than that, you don't have any growth. The growth you have is limited. It's stunted. The leaves look wacky. The leaves fall off. You have Hoyas that have new leaves that just fall off. It's a very frustrating thing because the plant just won't grow with root mealies. So you take it out of the pot or you look in the transparent pot and you see all these little dots of root mealies. If you have the proper setup, it's one of the easiest pests to see because it's just literally you can see it. If you can't see it and you have to unpot your plant to find out, it is a pain in the butt way to go about finding out for pests. But once again, once you take the plant out, it's very obvious, oh, I have root mealies. How do you get rid of root mealies? Root mealies are really tough to get rid of. Until very recently, we had a standard way to take care of root mealies. That has changed somewhat. It's still evolving what we do. The way to get rid of root mealies used to be to cut off all the roots from the plant, spray the stem down with rubbing alcohol and repot it. If you had a large plant, that plant was gone, you had to cut it up and repot it and replant it in multiple cuttings and restart it with new substrate, with a clean pot, everything. You could use hot water. I think it's 115 degrees exactly. Soak your plant, the whole root mass in that, not the plant itself, just the root mass. You have to be very careful about the temperature. Too much will kill the plant, not enough won't kill the root mealies. I do not subscribe to that because you can kill the plant so easily. People do not cut off the roots anymore because we have discovered that root mealies from the leaves of the plant will migrate downwards to the roots. So even if you cut the roots off, you can get root mealies again because the root mealies that were eggs from the beginning can migrate down, and then you have root mealies all over again. The current consensus is do a soak instead of cutting off the roots. I need systemic granules. Those are pretty much what you want to use to get rid of those. Be careful though, because that systemic can cause an explosion of growth in spider mites. It is not a treatment for spider mites in any way. So if you have a problem with those, do not use systemic granules in your soil, which does bring me to the next issue, which is spider mites. What are spider mites? The easiest way to see spider mites is to look at the place where the leaf meets the petiole. You'll see normally that spider mites congregate there. They congregate on the underside of the leaf where the rib is a lot, and they do tiny webbing. So if you ever see like a webbing on your leaf, that's spider mites. Normally they're red. They're little tiny red dots. They can be any other color too. They can be white. They can be orange. They can be black. Once you get them, they can reproduce very fast. They are not the most difficult pest to treat for Hoyas, but they can get out of control pretty fast. So if you see spider mites, jump on it right away and get it treated. Don't, oh, it's just one plant. No worry. No, treat it right away so you don't get 15 plants with spider mites, because they will travel with the breeze in the room to other plants. It's amazing how fast they travel. So what are the signs of spider mites besides the actual red dots or orange dots you see and the webbing at the base of the leaves? You can see yellowing or what's called bronzing of leaves with small visible specks. You can also see leaves may become brittle or even fall off in severe cases. How do you treat spider mites? The easiest way to treat spider mites is to take that plant in the shower and hose it off with the shower head attachment. You can also use insecticidal soap. You can use neem oil. Do not use the two together. You can also use live insects for the treatment of spider mites if you want to go down that path. I am not the best one to talk to you about that. I know Plants by Melissa is. The next pest is flat mites. Now, this is like Hoya pest number 1, most wanted. Let's put up a wanted poster for flat mites. I had the great flat mite apocalypse of 2021, where I discovered that all of the knobby little stunted growth on the nodes of my Hoyas, where I thought I had so much great growth, was not that, it was mites. The number one sign of mites is the dropping of new growth, or when when you have new growth on a node and it gets really short and then it just stops. And then a new growth will come up right next to it and then that stops. And then there's another and another and another, but they never grow anything other than a tiny little nub of nothing. I will see if I have a picture of one, and I can probably insert it here. I don't have plants anymore that have lots of mite damage. I got rid of them all because they upset me greatly. So you will see with flat mites, you will see a scarring on the undersides of leaves. I will definitely show pictures of this. There is a brown scarring. It looks like there's mud or dirt on it. And when you scrape it, it's actually part of the leaf. So you will get sap coming out. So it is a destruction of the leaf. It will cause your Hoya to be in suspended animation. You will not get any growth. Your plant will just stay where it is forever. It's very frustrating. But how do you kill flat mites? How do you get rid of flat mites? The number one way people use is sulfur. To mix powdered sulfur in water and then spray the sulfur on every inch, every part, every little nook and cranny of your plant. And to repeat that every other week for 6 weeks. That is the number one way for people to do it. You can also use horticultural oil. Do not use the two together. Do not use sulfur and horticultural oil anywhere near each other. Like, space them out like a couple of weeks and rinse the sulfur off. I have seen what people can do with that, and that is bad. So you can use horticultural oil if you don't want to use sulfur. The next pest, and this seems to be the pest that will cause collectors to throw up their hands, sometimes quit entirely. It is a nasty bug because it is very hard to eradicate. I will put a life cycle of a thrip, because it's thrips. I will put a life cycle of the thrips up here for you to see. What are thrips? Thrips are small, slender little insects. They kind of look like a little, I call them infinity signs, because they have a skinny little body top, and then they get skinny at the hip, and then they have a body again. They're very easy to recognize, and I'll put some pictures up so you can see them. They not only feed on the sap of the leaves, but they kind of scrape the leaves. When they lay eggs inside the leaf. So that's why when you spray the leaf for bugs, you're not getting the eggs of the thrip, because the thrips have laid the eggs inside the plant, and so you can't get to them. The signs of thrips are distorted or discolored flowers and new growth, the presence of black droppings, black little specks, and silvery streaks or patches on leaves caused by the scraping, and also these little infinity-shaped pests that walk slow, and sometimes they can fly. In later stages, they can fly very short distances. They are difficult to get rid of. The number one thing you can do is if the leaf has a lot of pest damage, remove the leaf. That's because if it's got a lot of damage, that means that it's probably got a lot of thrips eggs in them, and you want to cut that leaf off, get rid of all those eggs. So that way it's in 3 weeks, it's not hatching a bunch of new thrips. You can use insecticidal soap or neem oil, once again, and predatory insects for thrips. I'll put up a link for a website that a lot of people use for buying predatory insects here in the U.S., I should say. The next one is aphids. And aphids are normally kind of a yellowish color, a clear to a yellowish color. They're little insects, and they like to huddle real close to each other on stems or leaves. And what they do is they focus on new growth, and they like to get real close together and eat the plant, and they destroy the new growth. And they're easy to identify because they're the only pest that they congregate together like that. The signs of aphids are curling or misshapen new growth because they have attacked it. The honeydew is back with aphids because of their sucking action. They do produce honeydew. The presence of ants. The honeydew attracts ants. This is kind of a symbiotic relationship with the Hoya. Yellowing or stunted growth in affected areas. As they are slowly killing that section of the plant, it starts to get yellow. How do you get rid of aphids? The easiest way is to take the plant and spray it off with water. The aphids will absolutely go away with a water spray down. They are fairly easy to get rid of with hosing down. If you're not totally expecting everything to be removed through the spraying down, you can also use insecticidal soap or neem oil. And finally, you can use predatory insects like ladybugs or lacewings. The seventh pest that I like to talk about is, and these of course are in no particular order. These are not in order from the least severe pest to the most severe pest. These are just in the order I searched them, honestly. And the seventh one is scale. And this is kind of the one that I have. I have a couple of plants that have scale. They kind of appear off and on. They came from, I got a Rinsey Borneo that had scale. And ever since then, that was not this past Christmas, not the 2024 Christmas, but I got it in 2023. And that had scale. And I didn't know it had scale because, bad vision. Because the scale insects are hard, are immobile. They do not move. They are hard insects with hard or soft, but they have a shell over them. They have a little ripple edge around them. I will put pictures up. But they kind of remind you, they kind of look like root nubs, like aerial roots. So when you look at them, they kind of just look like aerial roots. So, you can ignore them for the longest time, because if you're just glancing at your stem, they kind of look like root nubs. They look like aerial roots to me. So I have had on and off. I will kind of see every now and then. I will see a Hoya with scale, and I'll be like, crap, gotta treat that one. Now, what they do is they affect the stem, sucking sap out of the stem. Sometimes they attach to the leaf, but most of the time it's to the stem. Now, what are the signs? You can see honeydew. That's why I see honeydew is from scale. Yellowing or dropping leaves due to nutrient loss. And of course, the small round bumps. if you take a picture of it, if you don't know if a bump is scale or an aerial root, take a picture of it with your phone and then zoom in on that picture. Look at the bump. Does the bump have a little outer edge? And I will show you this. Does it have a little outer edge on it? And is it perfectly circular? If it's perfectly circular and it's got a little ruffled edge around it, it's scale. Root nubs look different zoomed in than scale does. I'll show you the difference. So that is the number one way to recognize them, is to zoom in on the camera. How do you treat scale? The number one is manual removal. I get in and I just remove them with my thumbnail. You can use a toothbrush or some sort of type of removal agent. Horticultural oil is supposed to be good for scale because they smother them. Systemic granules are good. What you do is you apply it to the soil or to the semi-hydro. If you have a semi-hydro setup, you let it soak in. And then what it'll do is, as the roots uptake it, it'll go into the plant, and then when the scale sucks the sap, it's sucking the insecticide too, and that's what kills it. And now we're at the final pest. And the final pest is more of an annoyance than a real problem. Although I do know people that have had a severe gnat problem. I went over to someone's house one time, just their house, and we were in their living room, my husband and I, and we had to keep going like this as we were talking to the people because they had like fungus gnats like attacking us just in his living room. We weren't even around any plants, and we had to keep going like this because the fungus gnats were attacking us. It was crazy. So I mean, that was kind of the worst fungus gnat infestation. I've had fungus gnats before. When I had plants before I got the cabinets, I had plants here on these little shelves, and I was an overwaterer, and I had a fungus gnat problem, and I had sticky traps. I had little cups full of vinegar and a combination of water, vinegar, and a little bit of dish soap, so it would slick on their wings, and they couldn't get up. Let me tell you that to begin with. What are fungus gnats? Fungus gnats are little black flying insects. They're really tiny. You can't miss them. You instantly, as soon as you see a flying black tiny bug, you know it's a fungus gnat. What other sign do they have? Wilting or drooping plants, and they can also destroy the roots as well. Fungus gnats do affect plants as much as it might believe that they just affect people. But they do suck the sap on plants, so it is important to get rid of them because they will destroy your plants. The main way to eradicate fungus gnats is to dry the soil. Don't give it so much water. I know that people are going to go, well, if I dry the soil, then I'm going to kill the plant because it needs water. No, you're not. If you let the top of the soil get dry, you're not going to destroy the plant because the plant still has water inside near the root ball. Don't ever forget that. If you really want to test it, stick your finger down all the way into the root ball and see how wet it is. And if it's dry in the root ball, then you can water it. Sticky traps, of course, the little yellow tape. The fungus gnats are attracted to the yellow color, and they stick and they can't go away. Then you can use beneficial nematodes, and those are little bugs, little worms, I guess you could say,
that you buy a little packet of, and then you pour it in the pot, and then you water them in, and they hatch, and then they're little bugs, and they eat the larvae that the fungus gnats plant in the substrate that will grow into more fungus gnats. So they eat those, and so that eradicates the fungus gnats that way. The method I used to eradicate my fungus gnat issue was mosquito bits. These are a binder that has a bacteria inoculated in it. When it comes in contact with water, the bacteria reawaken, and what happens is when the fungus gnats eat the plant that has absorbed this bacteria through its roots through watering, it can't survive eating this bacteria. How do you use mosquito bits? You either have pellets or you have round pucks. What you do is you put them in like a tea bag. You put them in like a mesh bag, and you put it in the water and you soak it for 24 hours. And then you take it out and then you water your plants as normal. And that water, after 24 hours, that water has that bacteria in it. And so then you're watering it, and you're just watering that bacteria in, and that will kill the fungus gnats. It'll take probably 4 to 6 weeks of doing it, but it works pretty effectively. The mosquito bits are very effective. And like I said, the traps that you plug into your wall that have blue light, ultraviolet light, that attract the fungus gnats, that is also something that I would definitely look into if I were you. So that's my video for today. I hope that you enjoyed this look at Hoya pests, what they are, and how to treat them. I hope that I've given you a base of information. This is not all encompassing. This is just a base level of information about each pest and how you can treat them. I urge you to go to Dr. Google and look more into a particular pest if you run into one in your collection. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section below. And if I don't know it in particular, I will look it up and get back to you. I hope that this video has given you the base knowledge for you to feel comfortable and confident in handling a pest issue if one arises. There are multiple ways of taking care of all pests. You just have to know what pest you have and how bad is it and what method do I want to use. And then you just go from there. And don't give up. It's a multi-week process to get rid of a pest. You will probably have more plants get that pest. You just treat, and then it'll get lesser, and then you're finished. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer your question to the best of my ability. Until next time, I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me and for spending time with me. I know that your time could definitely be used elsewhere, so I appreciate that you're spending it with me. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and until next time, I'll see you then. Thanks. Bye.